Welcome to the show, Tim.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
It is so good to have you. Did you see the recent total lunar eclipse recently this week?
Oh, it was amazing.
Yeah.
I generally don't make it customary to wake up early because I can stay up late, but getting up early is a challenge. So I did set the alarm this time, and I certainly didn't regret it. Although we had a little bit of wind, because I have the observatory, it sure helped out as far as not freezing to death out there. But I had a camera going, I had the telescope going, I had the drone going until I almost crashed because of the wind.
Oh,
But I
yeah.
did get
Yeah.
some really good footage. I posted it to our Facebook. It turned out
Oh,
really well.
okay. Before we even get into it, deepskyeye.com, everyone. And on Facebook and all the socials. So check it out. And I can't wait to see that. Um, Interesting thing that you said I want to ask you more about. When you say I'm used to staying up late but getting up early, what is early to an astronomer? What is that magic time? Is it 2 a.m., 4 a.m.? What's the early in early?
Getting up early, I guess, if you have to go to bed and wake up anytime and you don't get your full hours of sleep,
Ah,
that's early.
okay, that's
And for
fair.
me, I'm in a slightly different position where I do have to go to work. I do have a full-time job in the day, so I have to get up and go upstairs to work
Ooh,
for 9 o'clock
upstairs.
usually. So being a
Yep, me
software
too.
engineer as well is a challenge.
Oh my gosh, me too. My office is upstairs as well, which is not as soundproof as one would like. So, but here we are. Yeah, what time was it at your neck of the woods? It was 4 a.m. for us.
Yeah, it started at 4:30 here roughly, but I was there by 5 starting to do the recording and stuff. And yeah, it was nice. It was nice, but it was incredible as the sun started to rise. It's
Yeah.
just starting to come up, and then you really got that contrast between the moon, its darkness, and its redness with the sky background. It was the best one I've ever seen, actually.
Oh my gosh, that's high praise. So, can you walk
Yeah.
us through in very general terms what it was that we saw and why this is so rare?
Well, what it is the sun and the earth and the moon are kind of in an alignment. So as you know, our moon, it goes around us,
Mhm.
as it goes around the earth. And as the moon goes into the earth's shadow cast, of course, by the sunlight, it goes into the shadow. So what we're seeing is that darkening because of the earth getting in the way
Yeah.
of our view of the moon. And it always it's somewhat rare. The next one won't happen again until in 2025. So normally we'll get one a year, one or two a year, or but this year is we're kind of doing a leap full. I want to call it I guess a leap lunar eclipse that we're missing because we'll be missing it in 2024 and
Yes.
2023. So
Now, are the lunar eclipses similar to the solar ones where they're happening all the time, but often over water, therefore we don't see them? Or is this truly unique to every 3 years?
well, it's kind of in between. It's just as common. It's just that we don't see them as often because
Okay.
of the positioning. The moon is kind of traveling at an angle of kind of at an angled orbit, so it changes, and it's similar to the solar eclipse where the moon is going in front of us and between the sun and Earth. So you end up with a shadow being cast on Earth at a small point at some place, which randomly, well, it's not random, but it's predicted. And sometimes it's over water, sometimes it's over land.
Okay. And what is the redness of it that we're seeing too?
The redness is that you're not actually completely in the Earth's shadow, but some of the sunlight is being our atmosphere is absorbing some of that light because our sky to us looks blue, so all the red light basically passes through, so you end up seeing a red cast on
Ah,
the moon.
so do astronomers generally like terms like the blood moon or, these really clever titles, or are they just something recent? Because throughout history, they certainly, I don't recall ever reading back in ancient times that's what they were called, or am I wrong?
Well, they have different names, and it has been throughout history. They've come up with different names for them. Astronomers who are like the pure scientific don't really care for those, like supermoon, and
Hmm.
it's a lot of some of these more recent terms like supermoon, I guess, have been coined kind of like almost like a promotional kind of
Yeah.
marketing kind of, and I love it because it actually gets people interested. It's terms that really vibe with people. And
Hmm.
it may not be exactly, what you might think, but it intrigues people. And that's the key with astronomy. If you listen to some, pure astronomers that are like sciencey, completely,
Canon,
oh, I don't like that
Star
term.
Wars canon. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they don't like any of that. But you kind of have to have both. Myself, I'm kind of always torn between the two, sort of the left brain, right brain. I have sort of the scientific part of it, and I
Yeah.
also am kind of a little bit artistic as well. So it's kind of, it's a good thing, I think, for most people, especially when you're trying to get people engaged in astronomy.
Yeah, I'm glad you support it. I think they're funny and clever. It's like the super moon, the super duper
Yeah,
moon, the super duper orange diddly do moon. And you're like, wait a minute, what? So as long as they're clever and interesting, we're all for it. I like that.
exactly.
I would just wait till we get eclipses on like, Saturn's moon and all the other ones, and we can really get into some fun ones there because those would happen more frequently, right?
Well, the planet Jupiter, for example, like a few last week, I actually just got a couple of really nice photos and I just processed them today, of Jupiter's moon, where there's four of the moons that we can see very clearly that go around Jupiter, and they change within, like, within half an hour. You can see that moon has moved, and it eclipses. It creates an eclipse. You see a black dot forming on the planet as the moon goes across,
So
and
cool.
we can see it. So we had a double transit. It's called a transit, where it's going across, and we had two of the moons actually casting shadows at the same time, which is pretty rare,
Whoa.
I guess. So
Double
it's
transit shadow moon
there you go. You've got
eclipse.
it.
We can make all kinds of fun references here. This is fun. Kids
And
are kids are the best with names. They can come up with some pretty clever ones. Like, I mean, Blood Moon sounds like a kid named it, to be honest. Look at that moon. Looks like blood.
exactly, yeah,
Oh my goodness. Well, that was such a great event. And I do love that the skies were clear for most of Northern America. And you
it was.
are up in Nova Scotia. Am I correct?
I am. Yep,
Oh
I'm
my
at the
goodness.
half an hour from Yarmouth. We have the observatory up here, and it's becoming a sort of, I want to call it an astronomy retreat,
Because,
because of our dark skies, and
oh,
we've uh, we've been certified as the first Starlight Tourist Destination and Reserve in North America by the Starlight Foundation from Spain,
oh,
since 2014. And we're up for renewal this year, actually. So we're pretty
okay.
excited. I think we've made a lot of progress, and it involves a lot of cool stuff. Like, it involves protection of the night sky, um, education of astronomy in our schools. It involves our culture.
Wow.
The designation is called Acadian Skies and Mi'kmaq Lands. It incorporates, of course, the two major cultures here in South West Nova Scotia,
Wow.
the Acadians and the Mi'kmaq, and
Okay.
which I'm technically both.
Are
So
you? So you're from the area. Wow.
yes, yeah, I was born and
Wonderful.
raised here. Yeah, and
And now the tourists are coming because they're realizing how wonderful it is up there.
it is. Yeah,
And so the cold and the nights, no problem, right? You've got it.
no, I don't
No.
like the cold. I used to love the cold, and I used to live in Moncton, and one night we went stargazing, and that was before I had the observatory even there. I had a little observatory. We used to grab our gear and go out, and in New Brunswick, up here in Canada, it can get pretty chilly. I was out with the group. It was minus 16 degrees Celsius.
Oh,
With the wind chill, it was about minus 30. And I was setting up my equipment, getting everything ready, and I think I must have gotten frostbite in my hands because since that night, every time I get the cold, I just get pain in the hands, and it
Oh,
just I actually my wife got me a pair of heated
yeah, yeah.
mittens, gloves, and they work super good. So I'm starting to kind of like the winter again.
Oh my word. The sacrifices we make for the viewing we must
I know
endure. Oh
it's
my
worth it.
gosh.
Now the good thing is, since we moved here to Nova Scotia, we're kind of in a tropical bubble down here in the south part of Nova Scotia because we
Tropics.
don't get a whole lot of snow. Um,
Oh,
the warm wind seems to come up from the south, um, the tropical weather, and we end up with snow that generally doesn't last very long, and we don't get a
okay.
ton of it.
We're talking like
It kind of
Chicago
varies.
snow or like dirty Chicago lake effect snow or like a nice dusting snow. What are we talking?
We're talking a couple of, 2, 3 inches, maybe 6 inches of snow, and it lasts and it goes away, and then it
Nice.
comes like for a week or two, and then it's gone, and then it
Okay.
starts again and it's gone.
Okay.
So it's yeah. So we only get a month, maybe, in the month of January. We usually get that month, January, February, and then we're finished. Like
Yeah, that's
it's
nice.
yeah,
That is nice.
bearable.
Lovely. Yes, that's the key. That's the key. We always joke here in Chicagoland area that the snow is nice. Everyone wants it for Christmas. But there's this moment when you go to the store and you drive and see these piles of dirt snow from the
Mm,
plowed parking lots that are just sky high. They're like almost up to the lights in the parking lot, that high.
yeah.
And they're just nasty, gravel filled, dirty snow. And you're like, I'm so done with the snow.
Done with the snow.
Or your
Oh yeah,
mailbox is
no.
under the snow and it's pleasant at first and then it's tolerable and then you just don't like it. But sounds
Yeah,
like you have a nice little, just like the tourists, you have snow seasons that come and go and come and go.
yeah, you got it.
That's
That's
wonderful.
exactly
That's
it.
lovely. Okay, so how did you get involved in becoming an astronomer? Have you always enjoyed learning about the stars and planets, or was this a hobby turned into more and you dug in? Or do you have unlimited money and funds for all of your equipment? Because we're that's a joke. It's always a joke. But behind you are these beautiful, beautiful telescopes I'm looking at. So, how did it all start?
Well, um, I was always interested in space since I was a kid. Um, at the age of 12, I got a telescope for Christmas. My parents sort of knew that I was kind of interested in space. I asked for a telescope. I got one of the Sears telescopes. Um,
Nice. Yeah, out of the
yeah, one of the
catalog.
big little white ones. Actually, I have one in the back corner that's similar.
Do you still
It's a
have it?
prop, but
The
it's
original?
not mine. No, it's I was trying to buy it back from the guy that I sold it to when I was a teenager, around 16,
Oh,
and yeah, well, he ended up selling it again, and we lost track of it. But
oh,
I was hoping to get it again. So for me, though, I was born legally blind. I was born totally blind. Actually, I had no eyesight for the first year and a half of my life. So um, by the time I got to that age, I actually lost courage. I lost courage with astronomy, even with the telescope. I couldn't see very much, and my eyesight was getting worse.
mm,
So by the time I was 16, I had gotten into computers at the time and kind of had my eyes set on becoming a software developer. So
okay.
um, I ended up at the age of 16 losing, I only had about 10% of my eyesight at the time, and I lost another 5%. My cataracts, I was born with congenital cataract,
Okay.
and the cataracts came back. So I had to have additional surgery to remove them about the age of 16. By that time, I had sold the telescope because I was kind of discouraged. I was discouraged not just by myself, but others that just said, "Hey, maybe that's not the right thing for you," and that kind of thing. So I just kind of pushed it aside and left it alone.
Okay.
Um, when I was 16, and after the surgery, something interesting happened, and I didn't really realize the impact it would have in my life. But when I got home, being in a dark sky here in Quinan, um, the dark skies, I knew at the time the skies were dark because I couldn't see anything, but that was partly my eyesight. But
Yeah.
there was no street lights around. There's no, nothing like that. When I got out of the car and looked up at the night sky, it was all I saw was a millions of points of light, and it just got me really excited. And I actually was scared because I thought I was having a detached retina because the doctor had told me if I have any kind of side effects like seeing points of light, you should come back because you could have a detached retina.
So this was right after the surgery that you looked up and
Yeah,
saw the night sky.
yeah.
Oh my
The-
gosh. So timely.
so yeah, and it just no, my mom convinced me. She said, "No, you're looking at the stars, I think," and she was right.
Oh
And
my
it
gosh.
was like a curtain had been lifted. But for me, I never really realized the impact that would have. And I thought this is, I figured someday astronomy would play a role in my life. I just didn't know when or how. And I kind of put everything aside. You go to school. I went to university. I went to college, then I went to university. Dalhousie University. At the time, it was the Technical University of Nova Scotia, tons. And got my Bachelor of Computer Science. I went on to be a software engineer and sort of been doing that for the last 20 some odd years, I guess. But in 2003, in 2003, the Mars was going to be the closest that it was going to be in 30,000 years.
Okay.
And my wife said, "Hey, I'm going to get you a telescope. I got to get you out of the house. You're playing too many video games, that kind of thing." Yeah. So I got this telescope, and ultimately I went stargazing one night with the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada, and a group that is very open to amateur astronomers and anybody that's interested in the stars. So they took me out stargazing, and I told them, like, I'd like to see what I could see through a telescope, like, real telescope kind of
Hmm.
thing. And what I discovered that night is I was actually seeing better than everybody else at that night. Was They were like, "Wait," like my buddy says to me, he says, "Look through the telescope," and he said, "Just describe what you see." And I see, well, I see what looks like a donut and two little dots in the middle. And he's like, "Wait a minute, you shouldn't be able to see that with this size telescope." And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" I said, "I'm the blind one here, guys. Like, you're playing a joke on me, right?" And after doing a little bit of research and contacting some people from the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada and talking with my specialist, eye doctor, he said, no, he said the lenses of your eyes were removed, and that is a natural filter for ultraviolet light. They also had to
Whoa.
widen your pupils like super big, and that's why you're seeing really well at night. I'm like, oh, so I have a superpower? So yeah.
You sure do. Oh
A
my
real one,
gosh.
actually. So the objects we were
Wow.
looking at in the telescope emit high energy ultraviolet light. It was what we were looking at was called the Ring Nebula. It was a dying star, and the neutron stars in the middle of the nebula basically light up the surrounding gases. And I was actually able to resolve the stars and see what looked like a pool of water in the middle. And from that point on, that's where everything really changed, and I just got the confidence to start again, and join the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada, which I'm still a member. I'm one of the directors for the Halifax Centre, and from then on, we opened up a little observatory in Moncton, right in the backyard, right in the middle of the city, and they're not like these superless light polluted place in the world. So at the time, we were able to see some stuff, and
Hmm.
I'd have people come every month and really, just enjoy the night and enjoy the sky. And we had so much fun with it. In 2014, when we moved here, I said, I found out that this area, they were looking to get it certified for this dark sky
Sure.
certification. So I was involved. I was asked to participate, and people had heard that I was moving here again, moving back home. So I was one of the stakeholders. Was able to communicate very well with the auditors from the Canary Islands, give them data that I had because I used to take pictures every time I come visit mom and dad every year.
Oh, no
Um,
kidding. Research
so
way back in the day when you think it maybe didn't
yeah,
matter, and it sure did.
exactly. Yeah,
Whoa.
those little photographs that you take that oh, really pretty stars, take a picture and don't even think about it. It helped them sort of make that decision that yes, you guys are worth doing this. And so then in 2016, my dad and my brother are carpenters. I'm not so good at swinging the hammer, but I tend to hit the wrong nail. But I designed the observatory. I did the plans, and my dad and my brother are carpenters. They built the observatory. It was a family project.
Oh,
It was like, let's
really?
see where this will go. I said, regardless if I open it up for tourism, I'm going to do it for myself because I just love to do it, right? So,
Oh, that's
um,
incredible. That's
yeah.
incredible. And can you like walk to it? Is it accessible? And it's kind of your baby, right? It's like what you've built and grew and the first.
And it's growing, and every year since 2016 we've added something. We've taken all the funding, like all the money we've made, because we didn't get any funding from the government or any tourism or any kind of anything like that. So it's all been kind of on my own dime, and it's been sort of like my retirement money.
Oh gosh. Has that since
So
changed with the tourists coming now, or is there opportunities for funding?
we had a little bit of funding this past year, actually. We had built a wheelchair accessible ramp
Okay.
for the observatory, which also doubles as a telescope accessible ramp because we
Sure.
basically wheel them in and out instead of setting everything up every night. We were fortunate this year as well. We got a donation of a beautiful telescope. The big long one behind me is a astrophysics F11, F12 refractor. Kind of a code name, but it's kind of one of those planet killer telescopes.
Ooh, it looks
It was a late,
serious.
yeah, it was a late 1980s model, and it was a retired astronomer who wanted to give it to somebody who where it would be used. You know, he wanted to give it some use. And I was joking one day, and I was at the one of the meetings of the RASC, and he was trying to give it to the RASC, but the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada, they had a little observatory, but they had no room for it. It was just too big.
Lucky
So
you.
I said, well, if you need a good home for it, I said, I'm looking for a planetary telescope for this year. And
Yeah.
everybody agreed, yeah, it'd be great if Tim could have it. So next thing, the next couple of days, I get an email from the gentleman, and he was quite enthralled with everything we were doing, and he was absolutely glad to hand it over. So
Awesome.
yeah, it was
I
pretty
love
exciting.
that. Oh, that's fantastic. I want to go back to that moment that
Mhm.
where everything changed for you. Is that where you observed more or committed or invested? What happened as a result of that? Were you able to like say, this is something I'm gonna really be able to get into and enjoy? Did you find like complete joy in your heart? Was it something that you were hoping for all along and then it got renewed?
Well, I think it's one of those things that I always knew since I was a child. Like I used to look at the moon just out of my bedroom window and be fascinated with space. So at the time now, once I realized that, you know, I had something special and I had to share it with people. Um, I love the night sky, and I think, the way the night sky touched me, even that time when I was 16 years old, where I could see it, for that sort of first time, because essentially it was the first time, because it was the first time that light from the stars, has hit my retina. My retina was like a baby's retina because it was always covered.
Gosh.
So, for that point, I knew something was going to come out of it. I just didn't know maybe when. So when I joined the RASC and went stargazing with them, that kind of gave me that extra boost. That I said,
And
you know what, this is so much fun, and I want to get back into the photography of it. That telescope that my wife bought me was actually when I looked at Mars for the first time with it. It was broken, but I did it anyway. It was fun,
mhm.
and I actually took a video with my Sony Handycam at the
Huh?
time to the eyepiece, shaking all the crazy, and it kind of started to renew something that I thought, this is really neat. I miss this. I miss being able to explore, and see the night sky. And I wondered, that's when I kind of said, well, maybe, I still kind of had doubts. You kind of grow up that way with your eyesight sometimes if you're not encouraged all the time. oh, maybe this is cool. I can see a bright planet, but can I see X, Y, Z? Can I see this constellation? Can I see this galaxy or this nebula or
Yeah.
the stuff that you see? And
And you can.
and and now, like after I figured out that I actually could, it just opened that door for me. And I tell my wife now, like, I'm so deep in it now that I said, even if I went blind completely, I said I would still teach astronomy. I would still do it. I said I'd figure out a way, to interact with students, to interact with people that are interested in the stars.
Yeah. Sure, because everyone remembers their first time. Everyone, whether it was seeing the moon or Saturn's rings, or
Yeah,
mostly when they look through a telescope. And to be honest, I wonder, Tim, how much it is that they are. I think astronomers can say it best and describe it better than I'm about to try, but there's a difference between seeing, looking, and seeing. And when you take away all the distractions, I mean, how many times do we look and see the moon in the night sky, or see some things, and we may notice them, we may take an extra second, but when we're truly void of our distractions and our mind's busyness, and we're able to be
yeah,
present with something, then we're really seeing it for the first time. And that's what I mean. I mean, I don't have recollections of seeing the moon for the first time as a kid, but I sure do remember Halley's Comet. Halley's
yeah,
Comet was like unbelievable. It was like a backyard extravaganza. All the kids in the neighborhood who didn't otherwise care about anything in the sky at night got to gather and look. And it was that Sears catalog. Actually, for us, I think it was a Kmart catalog.
yeah.
and it was one of my friends who was always grounded, but on this night he wasn't, and his telescope came out, and we all gathered around it, and that was my moment that changed for me, because after that, once you see it, you can't unsee it. And if it sparks something within you, you want to see more and more and more. And I'm sure, as a great teacher and describer as you are, when you get that returned to you, reflected to you from students, it just fills your heart with the joy of learning and understanding, and
Yeah,
you sit in awe with what we're surrounded with constantly right above us.
absolutely. And one thing I've found and one thing I've learned is that we here at the observatory, I have about 1,000 people a year
Wow.
that come here. And this year has been close to the 1,000 mark this year. And you know it's amazing how many people have never seen the night sky.
Mm.
And even if it's just with their eyes, with the Milky Way, seeing those millions of
Yes.
stars. And it 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 my sort of view is that by sharing something like this with people, it really starts to connect with them, and it helps them connect with others.
Yeah.
um I always say, we're stardust. We're made from the stars. That's everything that we are made of, came from out there.
Yeah.
And if we lose the connection with the stars, we're going to lose the connection between each other, because we are all connected.
I so
um,
strongly believe you, Tim, and I'm so behind you, because I think as
yeah,
humanities, with our concentration, lack of, and our busy lives, and the things we fill with having the
yeah,
attention that needs to be constantly filled, who we are as people and as humans, we're not in touch with seasons anymore, yet alone
yeah,
in touch with ourselves. Like,
yeah,
we as humans, we go into seasons as we age and as we grow and all of these
yeah,
things. And it used to be that our seasons aligned with nature and we lived our lives accordingly to that. But now we are just creatures of
yeah,
constant energy absorption and energy consumption. And we just make it
yeah,
work, work, work so we can be productive all the time. And when we don't have that ebb and flow that listens to nature and our environment around us, we really do lose touch of who we are. And I think I want to share one of my moments with you because it was so sacred. I know you get these stories all the time, but on one of the analogs, I think it was either Mauna Loa or Mauna Kea. I forget which one we were on in the Hawaii Islands. One was,
Monica, yeah,
yeah, one had all the observatories. on the
Yeah.
top of the snow, and we were actually on the other one because we were on the
Okay.
active volcano away
Yeah.
from those observatories, because this is where we could build a non-permanent habitat that respected the mountain and the volcano. So we were there,
Oh wow.
and the whole time we did not go out at night because we were simulating our mission inside, and the weather didn't allow us to. And then finally on that last night we got to go out. I had never, ever in my life seen the stars like that in my life. And I
Yeah.
call it spiritual, call it grounding, call it a
Mhm.
moment. It was all of those things. And it took me back in time, and very, very, very present, and present with the people I was with. And yet totally, I felt so small and so big at the same, like all of these things are happening at the same time as I'm looking at the sky. You know this
Yeah.
because you see this all the time. But when you get
Yeah.
to enjoy that with people, it's a minute, it's a moment that
It is.
only some
Absolutely.
lucky people who live in Nova Scotia or Hawaii, and or live perhaps in the ocean areas that are coastal, and they get to really have this non-obstruction of light pollution, get these
Yeah.
incredible views.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing. And I've got tons and tons of stories from
Ooh,
people that
let's hear
have,
some more. I love these
that have,
stories.
you know, um, people that come. I've had people here that have proposed to their
Yes,
significant others.
yes. Oh,
Um, you know,
wow.
we've had,
Did anyone say
we've had,
no?
what's that?
Anyone say no?
No.
Good. Just checking.
Yeah, we've had people. We even had, we've had people, break out in tears,
Yeah.
looking through a
Yeah.
telescope, just like totally, emotionally grabbed, like completely.
Mhm.
I've had people that are like, okay, I'm in, I'm all in. Like, I want a telescope. Like, I want, to get involved in this. So, I've had that. We even had people come. We had one lady that came who her she was supposed to come with her husband, and um, the one year, but something had happened. They couldn't come. So they were, waiting to come next year. But between then and the next year, her husband passed away.
Oh,
So she brought his ashes and she came and did the experience and, put her husband's ashes and planted a tree
oh,
up on
wow.
the hill. You
Wow.
know,
Perfect.
it's
Wow.
memories, right? It's remembering and, again, that connection with people. Um, we it never gets old. It
No.
never gets old. Um, and I think that's, for me, that's one of the things that keeps me doing it. And, it's bringing something to people, encouraging them. And, I've done it like even before I had the observatory. I used to do it a lot. We had one lady that, girl, she was a teenager and she ended up, we brought them down to Quinan one year because it was my son's friend,
Mhm.
and they had witnessed a bad accident, and her my my son's best friend had, his dad had passed away.
Okay.
So in order to get all the children away from that situation, we brought them to Quinan out in the country, and shared with them, our sort of way, let them relax, unwind. Anyhow, one of the girls that was there, was a friend of, my brother's, or my son's best friend. And anyway, I got a message from her, I guess, a couple of years ago saying, "Hey, I just wanted to know, could I use your observatory and your story as part of my paper?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." I said, "What grade are you in?" "Oh, no." She said, "I'm taking astrophysics now in university." She
Yes.
said, "Thank you."
Oh my
So,
word.
you
Oh
know,
my word.
it's to try to inspire people and,
Yeah.
kids to move on, to get into the sciences, because, ultimately it's the sciences that'll save us. So
Agreed. Is your family loving that this is part of your work as well, and they get to equally observe and enjoy it?
yeah, actually, to be honest, in all honesty, my mom, she's like 70 years old and she's still very active. But she actually, for the first time, actually came out to actually observe with the telescope
Uh-huh.
this summer. And um, all I can say, well, what can I say that's not profanity?
Oh, your mom swore? She was like,
But no,
"Holy
yeah,
cow."
yeah. She's like, holy crap. She said, I can't believe this. And anyhow, so she
That's
said, you
it.
got to get your father out here. You got to get your father out here. So,
Oh,
so yeah. But they enjoy it. They enjoy, they enjoy to see, the work that we put into it. It's, it's paying off.
yeah.
It's changing people's life. It's making the world a better place.
That's
That's how
amazing.
I look at it.
That's amazing. So now that we have their attention with this lunar eclipse, we've got a couple
Mhm.
other things. I know the total solar eclipse is coming up in April, but before that, is it this year or next April?
It's 2024.
Okay, so we got some
Yeah.
time yet. But between
Yeah.
now and then, we have some events and some beautiful constellations in the winter months that are not to be missed. Can you highlight a few of them for us?
Yeah. So, of course, Leo is coming up towards around midnight, coming up. And back, I guess it's in November 17th, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, probably 17th, 18th, the Leonid meteor shower.
Oh,
So we got one meteor shower. It's not that impressive, but it's still pretty cool. You can get about 15 meteors per hour in that one.
okay.
So
Okay.
that'll be coming up in the eastern sky. Um, I guess the next one, I keep thinking of meteor showers. That's how I know when the good constellations are coming.
That's your
Uh,
time reference. You're like this one and then that one. That's when you drop everything and get out for them.
yeah, exactly.
Meteor showers are
Um,
amazing.
yeah, they can be pretty awesome. That's for sure.
Yeah.
December 7th is going to be I think, what, excuse me one sec. I have to blow my nose.
Oh, please. This is called editing. We get to edit.
Yeah, you'll
Don't
have to
worry.
edit this one up.
No worries. Unless meteor showers are great unless you're driving and then they can become hazardous, which is also, that's always a challenge. What was that? Stay focused. Or sometimes people, I wonder how many people confuse what they see as a meteor with what they think is something else. I bet that happens often.
Yeah, there's a lot of satellites up there, and
Yes.
satellites tend to move a little bit slower,
Mhm.
so you don't really see them. A meteor tends to move fairly quickly. We've captured a few, and you can look on our website, or sorry, you can look on our Facebook page. We caught a beautiful one. A friend of mine actually she captured it with her time lapse with her camera, and I edited the video and processed the images. But
Oh,
it was absolutely stunning. It showed the meteor flashed into the atmosphere, and it vaporized, and it basically ionized the atmosphere, and it lasted for about 20 minutes afterward.
whoa,
And we got that
whoa.
on time lapse, and it's crazy. We shared that, and it kind of went viral. So
I gotta check
we
this
had a
out. That's
yeah,
amazing. On the Facebook page,
yeah, it's on the Facebook, and
Deep Sky Eye on Facebook.
yeah, Deep
Gotcha.
Sky Eye on Facebook.
Cool. Good. Perfect. So we were just about to get into December, which is always this question about the Christmas star. That was a big event last year, but is that going to be something we'll see again this year or not so much?
Not so much. Christmas star, yeah, that's
Here's
Venus has been the sort of, people think that that was the Christmas star because of its brightness, its location in the sky, and that sort of thing. But it turned out it wasn't really that. Last year at that time we had a beautiful comet that kind of grazed uh, our skies, but not this year. One thing that'll be fun this year, though, is going to be December 7th. Is going to be the full moon,
okay.
and for most of us in North America, it's going to block and block the view of Mars. So Mars is fairly bright red,
Mm-hmm.
and it'll get to the point where it's called an occultation. So basically, the moon is going to cover Mars as it passes by. It's going to be, it's great if you have a telescope really to observe it. If you have
Okay.
one or binoculars,
Okay.
Mars will be there right close, close, close to the moon, and then it'll just disappear. So that'll be
Really?
kind of a fun thing to look at if you have the opportunity. That's on December 7th.
And what is that called again?
Sorry?
What is the name of that event? An oculate
It's occultation. Yeah, the
occultation.
occultation of Mars,
Oh,
yeah, the moon and Mars.
I
So
just
yeah, it
learned
should be,
that.
yeah.
That's cool.
Those are fun to watch, especially if you can get to a high power telescope, because you can see Mars and it gets close to the moon. And sometimes if you're lucky, when it's like halfway covered, you can see some of the mountains on the moon that are kind of like
Whoa.
shining, like just on the rim of the moon that you
Oh,
normally wouldn't be able to
yeah.
see. Yeah,
Oh,
kind of
that's
blocking
cool.
Mars.
Did
So
that
that'd be kind of fun.
happen no, did that happen like 5 years ago? I remember it being
Oh,
bitterly
probably.
cold in the winter, and I think I got outside for something just for that. And I remember seeing the detail along the ridges of the moon because something was blocking it. I don't remember what though, but I
Okay.
do remember that event because I woke the kids up and we stayed out and it was freezing cold.
Yeah, the it happens too with other planets. Like it's happened with Jupiter and
Okay.
um, I can't remember Jupiter, but I know it's happened with Saturn recently as well.
Okay.
So that's kind of neat.
That's
Then,
cool.
of course, the one of the most interesting meteor showers, I think, to me anyway, is the Geminid meteor shower. That'll be
Okay.
coming up. That's after my birthday, so that's the 13th, 14th,
Of December?
and December. Yeah,
Happy
December 13th.
birthday. What a thing for your birthday.
Mine's the 12th, but thank you. Yeah, I always get that stuff there around that time. So it's kind of like I hope for clear skies. We don't always get clear skies in the winter here. That's kind of the challenge too. Um, but when we get a chance to get out, yeah, the Geminids, Gemini, it's in the constellation of Gemini. So Gemini, the twins,
Okay.
Castor and Pollux are the two bright stars that make up that constellation. So like
Interesting.
after midnight, you should be able to start. Well, actually, a little bit earlier than that, you'll start to see that constellation will be a little bit up, and meteors, that one there can spit out about 150 meteors per hour on its peak. So
Whoa.
it's a lot. Yeah.
Ooh.
Um, it's generally better than the summer, sort of its counterpart in the summer, the Perseids
Yeah.
that comes out of the constellation Perseus. So
Now,
that one
Tim,
there, yeah.
are you able to see other phenomenon outside of the telescope, like the Northern Lights?
The Northern Lights, yeah. We've had actually two kind of views this summer of the Northern Lights, which is kind of rare in a sense. But you see, the sun goes through a cycle of about 12 year cycle, and that cycle we're kind of at its almost at its peak. It's peaking in 2025, so it's increasing right now. So the more activity that's happening on the sun, the greater chance that we'll see some northern lights. It's like I say, it's fairly rare for us. We only see them at their around the peak of that 12-year cycle generally here in
Okay.
Nova Scotia. We're not as fortunate as those up further north.
Yeah.
But what I found is the northern lights here are much more interesting because we don't just get the green color. Basically, we get the green, the blues, the purples, and the reds.
Ooh.
So we tend to get a lot. I've got videos of that too. You'll see that online at our on our Facebook page at
Wow.
deepsky.com.
Oh my
And
gosh.
yeah, you'll see some. We had some. I generally never tell our guests if they're calling for, for a chance of Northern Lights. I don't like to kind
Yeah.
of get people excited for nothing. So this year was awesome because for the first time I've been able to say, hey, oh, I have people facing me and their backs are to the north. So this year was the first time I was going to say, okay, I'm shutting off the projector and we're going to look behind us and tell me what you see.
Oh
And
my
they're like,
gosh.
whoa, what the heck?
Surprise, bonus.
Surprise.
That's when you
Yeah,
got to hit them up for funding for the observatory, Tim. That's like
that's
the
it.
bonus. I made this happen for y'all. Now let's
That's
be
right.
profit. Let's be charitable. Um,
That's it.
This is so great. Oh my goodness. Where can people find all of these references of your videos and catching this meteorite as it gets disintegrated? It's all on Facebook. You mentioned your website,
Yeah,
deepskyeye.com, and
yeah.
anywhere else I'm forgetting or not mentioning.
Yeah, you can find us on most of the other social media sites, Twitter and Facebook, Instagram. So Instagram has a lot of the videos and such as well, as much as Facebook. So
Excellent.
um,
Um,
eventually we'll be getting back into, we also have some stuff listed on our YouTube channel as well.
Oh, great. Oh, your YouTube. Okay, great. Look at that as well. This will be great. I'll put all this in the show notes and this will be really easy for folks to find. Let's talk really briefly about, seeing the Northern Lights is on my bucket list. So you just let me know when, and I will come on up and out, dust off my
Perfect.
passport, and make sure I get out there because that I mean, I've heard people experience them, and just like you said before, when we were talking about seeing a phenomenon like that, it's everything from spiritual to emotional to
Yeah,
incredible. So that is on my list. I can't even wait.
awesome.
Okay, good. Does that happen? And it happens all year round. So, but are my odds greater in the winter? It's a solar thing this season, not
Yeah, it's it's tends to be. I mean, for us, it's been mostly in the summer. All the ones that we've had the opportunity to see has been mostly in the summer
okay.
and a little bit in the fall. But it can be hit, anytime. It's all depends on what our sun decides it wants to throw at us.
Yeah. Good. Well, let's go, son. We got things to see here. We want to
That's
enjoy
right.
this, but not too much. We don't want too much of these uh solar mass ejections. Is that what they're
That's
called?
it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we don't want
not
two
too
of those
strong.
coming towards us anyway. No,
No, no.
no.
Okay. All right. Tim, I would love to know if you enjoy space movies, space books, crazy stories about space and adventures. Did they really resonate with you, or is it hard when it's fiction to be like, yeah, I've seen that in real time and that's just never going to be is it something you can escape into and enjoy, or is it something that you struggle with because now it's it's something you understand so deeply?
I still watch sci-fi, so I'm a sci-fi nut too.
Yeah.
Um, I can turn off the switch and just enjoy. Um, when I was younger, I still watched Star Wars. I still watched Star Trek. In fact, my wife and I started a sort of a Star Trek original series marathon.
Oh boy.
last For the last couple of weeks, we tried to just watch one of the old series.
Nice.
And no, I watched, I think, quite a few sci-fi movies and shows, and I'm fascinated with time, and I have yet to see. There's a couple of movies that really resonated, I guess, with me that were really, kind of along the lines of, traveling in space and
Oh,
time and that kind of thing.
is
So,
Contact one
um,
of them? Is that one?
yeah,
Oh, wait, is
yeah,
it really? Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
That was interesting at the very end. I forget who the character was where he leans in and he's like, there's something else on the. Did you really look at the video? And the lady's like, I did. And he's like, all 54 minutes of it. And she's like, I did. And it's like they give you that last teaser at the end, and you're like, whoa, hold on a minute. Hold on. You just changed the game right there.
Yeah, yeah, it was
That's a good one.
awesome. Yeah, there was some great, you take everything with a grain of salt,
Oh,
and I like
Interstellar.
I say, I can turn it off and turn off the realism, go into the imaginary, because I mean, hell, when a lot of the times, sort of my routine has been, I set up my telescope a lot of the time, the observatory telescope upstairs. I have a that I One of the things I'm working on is automation.
Oh,
So
yeah.
my son is a welder, and he's been helping me automate the observatory.
Perfect.
And the idea is that I'm going to do similar to what St. Mary's has done. I'm creating a social media interface to the telescope, so
Oh,
that you'll be able to go to Facebook and Twitter, similar, and say, "Hey, Deep Sky Eye, can you take me a picture of the Andromeda Galaxy?" And then when I'm sleeping, it'll start snapping pictures, send them to people the next day. and they can process them, or we can process them automatically for
Oh,
them.
wow.
So
That's
we
so
want to try to
cool.
get the schools involved, our local schools here, on this project, so that they can, and sort of have some participation in it. If they have projects they want to do on space, they'll be able to ask the telescope to take a picture for them, that kind of thing. It
Yeah.
means a lot when it's a local thing. Like they could do it elsewhere, and buy telescope time on another place, but to be able to do it from your backyard, like
Yeah.
here, I think it's going to mean a lot to them.
You
So
bet. Oh my
yeah.
gosh. They, of course, they'll feel connected to that. It's amazing. There's a lot of students that once they get to see or have that experience, they just get to read
Yeah.
into the sciences a little deeper and understand things a whole lot more. And
Right.
I wanted to ask you one last question too. Has anyone ever reached out to you this beautiful gift that you have that and wanted to study that, or have you look at a certain part of the night sky because you can see things in such a different way and say, hey, can you look over here in this region and examine if you're seeing things we're not or we're missing? Has that happened yet?
No, not really. A lot of the astronomy now, of course, is done by cameras. So cameras are way more sensitive than your eyes could even imagine to be. Um, but what has happened is, when I used to stargaze with the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada when I was in Moncton, we have certificate programs where people would, like, you could do the Messier catalog, the 110 different objects from the Messier catalog. There's a bunch of different certificates, but a lot of the times when I was stargazing with them, I was the, okay, can you confirm this is what I'm seeing guy? So I was the confirmer. So I was
Okay.
able to help others, which is really weird because all my life I've always relied on other people for their help. What does that sign say, or what's over there, or and I still do, but it's really cool to be able to reciprocate, and help other people that way too.
Oh, we're so grateful. I know they certainly are. I'm so grateful for you sharing your adventures and your journey here on Casual Space with us here. But Tim, I'd love for you to come back and I want to talk about this concept when we have more time about time because it's really hard to grasp. And I would love for you to navigate us through that. And I don't just mean like in general, I mean the idea of wormholes. I mean the idea of alternate universes. I mean the idea of bending space and time. And even as the astronomer that you are practicing, or I know you say that it's not official, but we're going to go with it. When we look at these exoplanets, there's a
Right.
way in which that we're looking through time and light to tell the story of life. And so now we're adding these three things into the equation. So can we do this again where we can really get into that in some more detail? And perhaps between now and then, I gather some great questions from the folks who are going to get to hear you here. And then I know that they're going to be like, oh, it would be great if you can ask him. And if we can expand on this, can we do that again together?
Absolutely, it'll be a pleasure.
That would be
And
great.
hopefully you'll get a chance to come visit us sometime in the future, and
Ooh,
stay
invitation
and
accepted.
stay in one of our sky bubble tents.
Yes. Oh, I'd love that. I'd love that. We got to talk about the movie. We can just kick it all off with Interstellar, where we have to break that down because,
Yeah, that one was one of my favorites too.
yeah,
Yeah, that one
yes,
actually did explain a lot about space time, and in the theatrical sense.
yes,
But there was a lot of stuff that was really relevant as far as that's concerned. So
exactly. Yes, I heard that the advisors on the movie were not allowing it to be made until Hollywood could really recreate the
yeah,
time experiment part of it and explain it in a way that was going to be, accurate. So I forget who
yeah,
was the advisor on there, a famous physicist. Who was it? I forget. Well, we'll do that next
not sure.
time.
Sounds good.
It's slipping out of my mind right now, but Tim, this was just a beautiful conversation. I'm so grateful. Thank you so much. Everyone's going to check out the show notes at the end. Go to the website deepskyeye.com. Thank you so much, Tim.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.